Okay, this is a review copy of C Higgins by Patrick Stevens. He runs Numbskull games. I've done a couple of games by Numbskull, both that I purchased. One by Patrick, which is Bullfrog Goldfield up here. Very interesting concepts in that game, but it had what I saw as some kind of devastating flaws that I couldn't see an easy way to fix, at least in the moment, in terms of being the luck being kind of back-ended. It came at the very end of the game. And then I also played a couple of times, including with Patrick, a game by another designer from his company, which I liked a great deal, Divided Republic, kind of a 4-player political CDG. And well, I'm hoping that he gets published or I get a chance to play maybe his demo copy to help drum up interest or whatever of Bull Moose, which is going to be the 3-sided election in what would that be, 1912, I think. Wilson, Roosevelt, and Taft. Anyway, he contacted me and asked me to cover this, and I've done a little bit of research, more than I usually do on a game, before I look at it, because I'm a little confused as to what are the circumstances, why. He's a very nice guy, and I know that he sees me, in a fairly positive light overall, but he's never approached me with a game before out of the blue. And this was published last year, I guess. I saw it at Consim World and kind of thought, looks interesting. Don't know anything about it. I'll keep an eye out about it. But nobody's reviewed it. Nobody's given it any real buzz at all. And so I'm suspecting that's why it came to me. Now, I'm not going to enter into any speculation as to why it hasn't gotten reviewed at all. That's got more to do with the state of reviewers than anything else, probably. However, the game does have some serious flaws that I see right away. Okay, reading through the production issues, there were some cards I've got here that are excess ones that I didn't find out about until I noticed I had an excess of one card, and so I had to go on to Board Game Geek to find out what's going on there. There's no errata or anything like that included, even in this kind of late production. There's a series of cards that are just duplicates, misprints that were replaced or whatever in production, and there was no attempt to print something out in sort of flyer. And then the rules themselves have a major flaw in them, so bad that this is why I had to look things up. I wasn't too worried about an extra card. I figured, well, sometimes shit happens. Maybe I'm missing a card, maybe I'm not, I don't know, but it probably won't matter too much to give an idea of the game. However, the idea I got from reading the rules was there's basically no reason for a board. Well, that was cleared up. Somebody asked a series of questions, and I'll try to apply those as best as I remember them. I know the big one, which is this game just doesn't make sense with it. Okay, so your goal in this game is to collect sets of roots, which are these, and they're more railroads than you've ever seen in any other game, probably. I have no idea how many. I could probably do a quick count here. You add up any one of this column, and I think you get the total number of railroads available. So there's tons and tons of different rails on here. Each of these cards presents an image of, I don't know what a ticket's supposed to look like or whatever, with a little number on it. I'm not sure what all the cards' little graphics mean, but this one's probably your ticket number. And this value is important to you because that's going to be how many sort of free moves you get based on this rail. And then you have an image of what the track that this covers, which is important to the game in some ways. And then it has some additional information, a color, and most importantly, if it has a box here, that's going to be important for your scoring. And your collections are going to want to be by the border colors, okay? And you're going to get points based on, at the end of the game, let's see, 3 points if you have the entire set, whatever the set is. So obviously a big set's going to be tough to get, but there are advantages to having, not in color, but to having some of the big sets. The railroad type and affiliation, okay? Well, the type is going to be the type of trains run, or what, it's just something that has very little to do with anything. But the affiliation is going to be the overreaching corporation that I guess it merged into or whatever. And so let's try to see one that has something. This has an electric train. That's not too exciting. But this one has multiple capacities to it. It's an S, which I believe is scenic. Doesn't really matter. It's just, oh no, S is short line. Yeah, because it says short line on it. And it also has UP, which indicates it's part of the UP system. So that'll help you figure out how many times you can score a card. And obviously something that you could conceivably score 3 times might be better than something that's not. And you get 3 points for, so here's why big sets are not bad. You get 3 points for having the entire set per card in that set. You get 2 points for each card in a set if you have the majority of those held by other players, and not the majority, the, I can never remember what majority plurality, more than anyone else. I think that's just a plurality. And you get 1 point per card otherwise. And you're basically going to be able to collect one of these per turn. And that's where the biggest rules issue is, which the game starts to make some sense without that. On your turn, well, at the beginning of the game, things are a little shifted, which is to say the first player, and I'm going to start up here and work counterclockwise as I always do, the first player gets to move 1 space, the second player gets to move 2 spaces, third player 3, and then from then on everybody gets to move 4 spaces. If you're playing with less than 4 players, they fill in those spots. After you do your movement, you're going to have to pay some money. $1, and you have $50 to begin the game, for each city dot that you move through or into. $2 for food and $2 for lodging for each day, and $1 each day to telegraph the home office. So it's going to cost you a minimum of $5 a day at the beginning of the game to just survive, right? What are you? You're some sort of railroad inspector or something. This has a personal tie to Patrick. It's apparently a relative of his. I'm curious whether he has some personal tie with Bullfrog Goldfield as well, because that's such an odd subject in general, a very small area of mining and rail operations. Okay. If you don't move, you still have to pay for all the other costs that you have. Now, there are 3 ways to play the game. And we'll get to that. We'll get to those modifications and which one I'm going to play in my playthrough as we go. But the base game, after you move, you're allowed to pick up one of these rail cards. Now, obviously, you have a desire to gather your victory points. Those rail cards, in the rules, it just sounds like you can pick them up anywhere, anytime you want. There was a clarification, which is you're only allowed to pick them up if you're in the proper end city. So, if you want to pick up the Missouri Pacific Iron Mountain, you have to end your turn in this space. And then you hunt that sucker down from this big stack and pick it up and add it to your stack. And presumably, at some point or another, before the game starts to get close to ending, people are going to count up and mark these. It might be a continuing process, we can see. You can have a column for each player and just keep track of how many they fill of each of these. I don't know to what degree I can do that while I'm filming continuously. But I think probably the best way to play would be to just keep count running all the time. I don't think it's too important at the beginning of the game, but we'll see how much I need it for my decision making. Okay. If you're unable to pay your fees, you throw out the rest of your money and you can't get a rail pass. You can continue to move, but you can't get rail passes until you've paid your fees. Okay, well, how are you going to get any money in this game? When you land on one of these dots that has one of these on them, which correspond to, since I'm playing 6 players, the top 4 cities on each of these cards, you get $50. And that's really your only source of income in the game. Rail cards are free, but remember, you're paying your movement. We'll get to, there's ways to cheapen your movement cost, though. You can also spend cash on your turn to buy one of these suckers each turn. And they're all just available, and some of them get quite expensive. This one, for example, costs $80, but it means you don't have to pay your $2 for food and $2 for lodging each turn. So that can save you a lot of money over enough turns. But it takes quite a few turns for that to become worth the amount of cost that you're paying for, right? So you're saving $4 a turn off that ability. And it'll take 20 turns for that to pay off. This one will allow you to eat for free as long as you're east of the Mississippi. We got sleeper cars and dining cars, which also allow you to eat and sleep for free anywhere. That doesn't seem terribly valuable, but if most of your remaining runs are east of the Mississippi, that might be a better move than buying a dining car. Okay. And by remaining runs, I mean these dots here. Because once you collect all of them, the game ends. Once one person hits all their dots, you finish up that current round of players, and the game's going to end. And you score based on how many tickets you've picked up. Okay, when you pick up a ticket, like I said, you draw it from the card, and then you also pick one of these little tiny dots, which are, and cover up that company. So everybody knows that's not available anymore. And there's a whole bunch of those. Okay, let's see what we've got here. So when I talked about rail passes, what is the deal with them? Okay. The rail pass has a number on it, which is a number of free moves that you're allowed to take with that rail. Now, that's just going to be a number of spaces that you can move without paying your $1 per space in the basic game. It's not terribly interesting, though, and we'll see there's modifications to the base game. There's an assist card here, which gives you an express train, which means you can move an extra city. You still have to pay for it, I guess. And obviously, if you run out of money, you want to head to one of your paydays, grab your $50 and kind of start over again. But you're not scoring anything during that time. So that's kind of problematic. Okay, then you score the game at the end of the round in which somebody hits their 4th city. And that goes up to 6 cities in small enough number of players. And the high scorer wins. Your money doesn't count for anything. These things, your money and these are just ways of getting your movement. Okay, so there's 2 modifications to the game. And a courtesy rule. The courtesy rule is all information's completely public. Obviously, you can choose to house rule that if you like. It might be kind of interesting to play it more as a hidden trackable information type game where you have to play that memory game, but we certainly aren't going to go against the design there. Except insofar as I'm going to fail to keep track of stuff there. Okay, the short version of the game says no money. You just move 4 spaces per turn. You can collect your rail cards. It might be interesting in, if you have a younger child or something, to allow them to play the short game rules without the cash and have, the adults or older children playing the regular game. And then the long version is significantly different. You ignore the number on the front of the rail pass. That no longer gives you just, a couple extra movement spaces when you pick that card up. Instead, what you're going to be using is the map on the back of that. And each of these has a map of where the route takes you. To give the game, the different versions, I think, give the game a little bit more playability. And I'll explain why I think that might be a problem in general in a bit, and probably get back to it when I do the review. So that map has a large city on it where you pick it up, and that'll be whatever city you pick it up off of here, which will be indicated somewhere. But it's kind of more important that you know these here. So that might be Green Bay route. Yeah, it is. It's Bay Green, not Green Bay. And you're allowed to travel on that rail for free for the rest of the game. You have a free ticket on that segment of rail for the rest of the game. That's going to be really hard to keep track of. Okay. What is my worry about this game? And I'm tempted to play that version just because I think it's the most interesting. But I'm also feeling like no matter what version I play, it may be beyond me. And this is why. I have the fear, the feeling, the certainty perhaps, that what this game really is a very complex static optimization problem. Why is it static? Well, it's not purely static, right? Because other players' actions are going to eat up cards that are going to help you. So there's going to be a continuous movement as to what strategy they take. But the starting locations are the same in every game that's the same number of players. Well, the starting location is always Chicago. But the starting payoff spots are the same for every player, except determined by the number of players there are in the game. So I don't know how many you use in different players. So in 4 players or less, you use all 6 cities. In 5 players, you use 5 cities. And those will probably fill in, I would guess, the middle of the, Texas, Saskatchewan. The middle of the board a little bit more richly. Right now, we're kind of in the 4 corners of the board for the different players. How balanced those positions are, I don't know. And there may be some slight variations as to what that optimization problem might be. Now, this is a tremendously complex optimization problem. It's not one that you can expect to solve over even many playings, but you can probably come to, after a few playings, a fairly successful series of optimizations in terms of optimizing your score for the actions that you're taking based on the movement points you're allowed to spend, etc. And you have to worry a little bit about where other people are so that you make sure that you're getting something each turn. Because, you may want to put off at times, though, obviously, right? There may be times when you could go down to an area that's going to score you no points when you look at the colors if you're familiar with that. But I feel like the biggest thing that this game has as a hurdle towards playing well is knowing the map and how these cards align to it and where the different point sources are and all that kind of stuff. And that once you have all that, there probably isn't a whole hell of a lot more. That's my worry. I'm not going to be able to figure that out in a playthrough, right? And I doubt that any reviewer who looked at it can be certain about that no matter what. The thing I am certain about it is that it is indeed this humongous optimization problem, and I don't tend to like those. So I doubt that I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, but as a favor to Patrick, I definitely do want to, showcase the game because I think it may appeal to some people. All right, let's send it up.